we're at the SEMA show and there's trucks that I can't even reach the door handle. And I look at them and go, I don't understand, but it's some cool craftsmanship and some cool stuff going on. Would I ever do it? Probably not. And that, look, 9-inch, I put a 3.5-inch list on my Rebel and then that goes, that's nothing.
Little.
I get it. That's my truck I'm driving. It's the first one I've had, and I don't know when, that didn't have some lift on it too. So,
welcome to the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast, where we dive into the high-octane world of market-leading shop owners, shop employees, and automotive enthusiasts from the aftermarket, restoration, performance, and racing industries. So strap in as we take you on an awesome journey with our guests as they share their real-life stories, lessons learned, business advice, and unfiltered insights to help you beat the school of hard knocks. Gearheads and Gasoline, fueling your success.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barry Alt with Motorhead Digital, and my co-host is Annette Bauer with Annette Bauer Creative. We're excited to welcome Bryan Harrison, the owner of Harrison's Rod and Custom, to the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you, Bryan?
Doing good. You guys okay this morning?
We're hanging in there. It's the holiday season.
Yeah, we got snow and it's cold, so I'll be sitting on my hands at the moment.
We don't have any snow. Yay!
Y'all don't want to hear about my temperature. Temperature here is good, but the wind's bad, so
yeah,
we're not freezing. No jacket today, so
that's good.
Nice. I am probably not the best person to talk, considering I think we're 42 degrees today. Our high is 63, so I'm certain we are much warmer than both of you.
Yeah, I got to look now that you did that. Let's see here. No, that's not the right one. 32 and high winds.
That's your high today is 32?
That's what it is right now. High today is 34.
Because that's
we
better.
didn't get 5 feet of snow like Buffalo did last weekend. So,
yikes. What about you, Bryan?
We're probably in the 40s right now. My wife's sitting over. She's from northern Michigan, so she's going, "What are y'all talking about?" It's
right.
She's used to single digits and clearing off the car 6 times a day. So.
Yeah, like your guys' temperature is no joke. That is for sure. I've been there. I've been to Martin, Michigan for a race at US 131, and it was freezing, obviously for a California girl, but even with all the other guys that were with me, like they were just like, it is way cold here. So you guys have a different kind of cold for sure.
Well, we honeymooned in Mackinac the year we got married, and I didn't even take a coat. I took a hoodie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
big
I was
mistake.
dying up there. Made for that stuff. I had to get her down south, get her straightened out.
Well, perfect. Well, welcome to Gearheads and Gasoline, Bryan. Let's go ahead and kick this off. So we typically start our podcast off with a very kind of, random question. And that question is, what is your favorite drink?
Probably the most frequent is black coffee. But what time of the day are we talking about? Because that plays a part too. A little sip of bourbon here and there don't hurt, but I probably drink more black coffee than anybody I know. So
nice.
Not so much that you're shaking. I used to have a boss that he drank so much coffee you could see his hand shaking and the coffee would be coming out of the cup. But right now it's coffee for me. But yeah, bourbon for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're used to staying up on fires all night, and the Red Cross being there giving out free coffee. So it's just what you do when you're a fireman too. So
fair, very fair. Well, nice. Well, let's go ahead and get into it, Barry.
Yeah. So you have a restoration shop, performance shop, build shop, and we're always wondering how you got started in this. What were you a car guy when you were growing up, or did just something you just fell into? We know you're a fireman. Tell us about that.
So my family, since as long as I can remember, we've been, back in the day, Super Chevy Sunday was a thing. The first one that came to Bristol Dragway, we was there, and all the car show stuff, NSRA stuff, all through my life, even back, I'm talking 10 or younger. When the family needed to pick up a third car or a second car, what have you, it kind of was what we could afford to get. Dad drove something older. It just so happened it was something cool and something that we liked too. And, back then he had, everything from bullet side Datsun pickup to El Camino. We had, K5 Blazers. He had all kinds of cool stuff. 52 Dodge truck with a nail head and a Buick drivetrain. So it kind of was just what we did, and it got to be more and more leaning toward restoring and fixing up things and more car shows. And of course, we're an hour from Pigeon Forge, we were talking about earlier, and we would go to all the rod runs both times a year and get into all that. So, we were going to car shows. We didn't actually have per se a show car to go. We went because it was a family thing. That's what we enjoyed doing. But as I got older, we got into the first gen Camaro stuff because when I was born, my parents' family car was a 73 Z28. So when I was born, I came home from the hospital in a 73 Z. Yeah, that's like our grail car that we talk about because it was medium orange metallic. You don't see them that color, and we're all sick that we don't still have that.
Did they keep that when you grew up, or was it a station wagon? Because you hear so many stories about the cool car going away and the station wagon, or nowadays the minivan.
Well, I'm gonna get blasted by my dad for admitting this, but that thing got sold, and they bought a Datsun B210 because of the gas crunch. And then after that, it was Cavaliers and stuff like that. That car actually sat about 3 miles from the shop out here on the 4-lane with the front clip trash for years, and we were just nauseous when we drove by. But, as I got older, we got a 68 Camaro. We had another 69 Z clone, and then we ended up with a 69 SS car that was Daytona yellow houndstooth, super rare piece. We went through that thing from one end to the other. By then, I'd been through, a handful of mini trucks and S10s and that thing. I was actually doing work on people's cars before I was driving. We'd go to their place and work on it, whatever, and then it just evolved from there. But my trucks always looked like street rods because we went to street rod stuff and we went to hot rod stuff. And I wasn't into the hammered on the ground stuff. I did the big and littles and usually wanted a little bit on the quick side too. May or may not done a little street racing, but
may or may not, right?
Mexico stuff.
Were you all self-taught, or did you go to school for any of that?
Not so much. Worked with Dad. We joke around we were talking the other day about the earliest memory I had was working on that 52 Dodge with him. And I had crawled under him. He didn't know it, and he was working. His elbow slipped and hit me in the nose and bloodied my nose. And I was just tiny. And then, started helping him with what we were working on. But when I was 18, I went to work in a factory. And best thing I ever did. Hardest job I ever had by far. Best thing I ever did. And I hope my boy does it too. I hope they work him to death for a while so he appreciates things. But I took a job to come to day shift to work and restore that Camaro at night at home with Dad because he's telling me all the things he's doing. I'm like, God, I'm going to work at night. I don't get to do this. And I took a job swinging a 15-pound hammer all night, beating on steel to get home with him. And wanted to go to days, was the only way to do it. And we finished that Camaro. And then I started, I kind of like this a little more than I realized. And we had some friends that had a shop that did some minor work. I worked with those guys, and they were some of the first street rod people I know. First street rod I ever rode in was his 33 Plymouth Coupe. And it just went from there. Like I said, we went to NSRA shows in the days, and when you walked through the gate at Knoxville, it was like the pathway in. You come over a hill, and you're looking through the show field, and there's Lobex and Alloways and all these vendors, and they're all sitting there, and all the stuff you like, and all the people you read about and heard about. And I'm like, I think I'd like to do this one day. And it just kept on from there. The formal business license was in 2021 when I actually took a license, started getting some dealerships and retail and stuff through companies and stuff like that. Okay. I make a joke that some of these companies I buy from now are owned by a conglomerate, and I remember mailing the check to California to their address. So it's changed. There was no social media. You did it based on name, and you had a look, and people wanted what you did or they didn't. And I would like to go back and do it over again with the social media that we have now. I think we'd be in a different place because it was a thing to get started back then.
It's never too late to get started when it comes to that, man. Social media is definitely the easiest and most adaptable thing, no matter where you are in your business.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always changing for sure. I remember sending a letter to a wheel company asking them for their brochure because the internet didn't exist when I had a 340 Duster, right? So it's changed a lot.
I'll tell you, and I've been on other podcasts, and the question always comes up: how do you start, and what was things that made a difference to you? But we used to go to the Shades of the Past when it was in a field, and Pigeon Forge was just the place to go. All the people were there, and Boyd Coddington was there, and that was in the NASCAR hauler tractor trailer with a nice setup, days. And I went over there. We'd been buying, collecting, Coddington stuff, and I went over there and bought some things. And I said, "Is he here? Can I meet him?" And he says, "Well, he's in the trailer." And he said, "He's not, he's not feeling too good, so he's not coming out." And I said, "Well, I want to meet him, and maybe get some autographs on some of this stuff." She says, "Well, come back." Okay, thank you. I'm 16 years old. He's got bigger fish to fry. I was fine with that. I get it. Well, we're getting ready to leave, and Dad says, "You going back over there?" She said she'd let you meet him to come back. And I'm like, "He ain't gonna mess with me." "Yeah, let's go back over there." So I go over, and he's leaning down out of the trailer, out of this door, and he goes to walk away. And she goes, "Boy." He looks down, and he points down there. He goes, "I'll step up in this trailer with him." Oh my God, there's Boyd. And he says, "What are you into?" I said, "I like trucks and stuff." And I bought some stuff from him. He goes, "Let me see what you got." I said, "Will you sign this? Will you sign this?" And, this is going on my truck. Put it on there. We get to talking. He goes, "Well, have you got a poster?" No. He goes, "Hey, give me a poster." He signs a poster. He's like, "What else stuff you got in mind you collect?" And I'm like, "Well, I got the Hot Wheels that came out. I got those." "Well, you need a poster. You got the poster about them?" "No, get me the Hot Wheels poster. Here, he needs one of them." And he goes,
hooked you up,
he
man.
said, "Yeah, we were just talking." And I mean, Boyd Coddington, he could have done anything he wanted to do in the world. Nobody would have known any difference how he treats some hillbilly kid in Tennessee, 16. And nobody was looking. And that's just how he was with me. And he said, what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I'm finding out I like doing this stuff." I said, "I'd like to have a shop one day." I said, "Probably never do the kind of things you do, but I like to have a shop." And he says, "Let me tell you something." He said, "Don't let nobody tell you can't. You keep at it." And that kind of sparked a thing in me. Is like, I don't care how busy I am. Kid walks up in that booth, we're talking till he's done talking usually. Dad and the kid, we're still talking to Dad and the kid. You got to make time for that stuff, because we're not going to do it alone if nobody's filling these spaces. These guys are dying off that's doing this stuff, and we've not got anybody coming in behind. You better spend time with these kids.
100%.
That's amazing that you had that experience, because I've had the same experience as an older gentleman with some of the builders today that I thought they wouldn't spend the time with me, and they did, right? A few years back, Dave Kindig was amazing, right? And talking about the youth in that, we want to highlight that a lot in our show. How are you working with the youth and bringing them into your shop? And when you're at shows and stuff like that, have you seen more youth come in and ask you those questions? And there's a couple things there.
We're doing a show here locally, all Chevy trucks, because that's 85-90% of what I do. We wanted to have a truck show and do some things a little different. We've got a beautiful downtown. We've got a good Chamber of Commerce situation called the Greene County Partnership that wants to help us. And me working with the city, I've got a lot of contacts and a lot of things. I said, let's do an upscale something. Let's do it a little different. So we do a truck show here where Friday night we have a rooftop terrace on the local hotel that's been restored. It's 1800s. It's a nice place. Y'all need to come down for that.
Nice.
But we have a get together there. We do an auction, really informal, raise money for a charity. Saturday night we had the show on Saturday. Saturday night we go back downtown, shut the street off with a live band and another auction. And the charity is it's the Harrison's Rod and Custom Scholarship Fund. And what it is kids will be able to come in here and apply for that money and say, hey, we want to further our education in the industry. And we're not just going to stand here and flip money out the door. I mean, they're going to come in. The guy that gets it's going to be the one that sits down and looks me in the eye and talks to me. He's got a good plan and all this stuff that we're going to put the money where it counts. So with that being said, AMD sponsors things we do here. We work together with AMD a lot. And Jason's a friend. Eddie's a friend. Not many days go by that I don't talk to those guys. And, we had talked back and forth about the operative talent and the different things they were doing. They're a sponsor of my show. And Eddie calls me and says, cost of doing business, you get some damaged body parts and they accumulate. We need somewhere to send those. What school are you going to be working with over there? And I said, well, it's Green Technology Center. He said, go to their collision program, see if they want some free stuff. That sparked a conversation with me and Aaron, the principal down there. Went down, had an afternoon, kind of met the kids, did a talk and expanded on, look, you can start here with $100 and go build a business from that if you got a good plan and you keep your head on straight and don't do ridiculous stuff to backtrack your career. And now we're looking at going in and doing a class with them. We're going to bring, I'm going to probably take like the top 3 grade point averages at the given time, bring them out here. We're going to do some mental work. We're going to do some things. But the coolest thing about it was last week, I had him contact me. I'm not going to say names or any of that, but principal contacted me, said, I've got a standout student that's really doing a bang up job, wants to talk to you about top rod industry. Came out, looked me in the eye, shook me in the hand, said, hey, I want to learn anything you can teach me in this building. Kind of backed off a couple of days, follow up from them. Hey, still interested, want to talk to you. And it's looking like probably going to bring that person in and they get work credit for their school, 17 years old, but came in here with a plan, where they want to go, what they want to do, asking me how can I get there. And that affords me the opportunity to go, hey, don't make the mistakes I made, do the stuff where it counts. And here's what we're going to do. Utilize social media, do good things. Don't post ridiculous things because you can gain 10 spots and lose 40 in 15 minutes. And got a good plan. So it looks like that's going to be probably one of the first rewards coming from that program actually coming in the shop. So we're excited to see where that goes. But watch social media. We'll probably make a big deal out of that because that's what the whole program was designed for. And if I can help a kid get there easier than I did, because I'm telling you, we worked out of my dad's house for a while. I've been in another shop and out, went back to the house and worked a while. And then through social media, it grew to where we got to have some space. This is just not working. And we make the joke. I said, I've never been afraid to work. I've never been afraid to get in there and get my hands dirty. I've been sunburned, snowed on, rained on, out running a storm, trying to lower a truck, trying to do this because we had to do a lot of it outside at the time. Now we're in a building. I have an office. So,
nice.
It makes you appreciate the things. That's why it's not a drawback. I'm not fussing about starting. That's the best life lesson I ever learned, but it makes you appreciate things. And that's just what we want to instill with these kids is like, don't say you can't, it's just like as our boy told me, don't let anybody tell you can't, go get it done. And actually I had a chance.
Go ahead.
Well, I had a chance. I met Chris Coddington through American Racing when he was working with him one time, and he and I was talking, and he said something about the TV show and people's opinions of dad, and the show skewed things. And I said, well, let me tell you something right now. Your daddy was a good man, and I said, I'll fight anybody over that. I said, your daddy was good to me when nobody was looking, and I've never forgotten that. And you cannot be too good to folks. It don't always pay off, but that's all right. It's their loss. It ain't you.
It's a good bank for you.
Yeah, for sure. I love hearing that too, because I was not a fan of the show. I didn't like it because they're always arguing and stuff. Just show me all your building stuff. Show me what you're doing in the shop. That's what I was interested in. So you just gave me a different perspective on Boyd Coddington that I didn't know. Right. So I think that's pretty awesome.
He and I talked a little bit, and that's been several years ago. And I don't have anything against anybody that does a TV show. I wouldn't put it out of the question here, and I'm not going to say I ain't talk to some people about it. Of course, we're going to be doing the AMD garage stuff with them on YouTube and stuff. I'm not so sure that I don't like that format better because I can kind of steer how my content goes. I don't have to say, I'm doing something and somebody says, whoa, stop, back up. When you say that to him, you say this, and let's see where it goes. Yeah. I'm not into that. I think after about 10 minutes with me, you figure out I'm pretty cut and dried. I don't play a lot of games. I've got a full-time lieutenant fire department job and this too, and I just simply don't have the time or the bandwidth for a bunch of drama. I like to get things
100%.
done. I've got a plan, and that's what I want to do, and still have enough time at the end of the day to spend with my 2-year-old. So, but I like the idea of the social media content, but at the same time, with more eyes comes more eyes when you really screw up bad. And that's what I try to tell these kids too. I'm like, understand for all the exposure you're doing, expose the good side of things. Don't post the party pics with your friends. Don't do this. And with this interview the other day, I simply said, I'm looking into your social media. I'm going to be looking at this because you're going to go out with shows, represent us, work in a booth. I don't need somebody going, oh yeah, I saw that video the other day when your friends were carrying you out of a bar. I ain't got time for that. You want to do that, do it. Keep it on the low, but keep it off the social media,
Yeah, you get a bad reputation sometimes. And, by doing that kind of stuff. What I was going to ask earlier, do these youngsters, young kids coming out of school that want to work with you, do they really understand that they may be sweeping the floor someday? They may be taking out the trash. They may, not, there's so many people we've met that the young kids are like, I'm going to be a fabricator and this is all I'm going to do. I'm going to be a top level person, but they don't understand that they have to do the grunt work. They may have to go out in the rain and work under a car or something, things like that. Are they understanding that?
Yeah, I feel like they do. And with regards to the interview the other day, that's kind of what I said. You don't come through the door and get the keys to the kingdom. We're going to start basic, looking at a truck that I've got in here that we just did from firewall forward on the truck. It's a driver. We did some detail work on it. And I said, you know what that is? That's an AN line. Can you make an AN line? Can you do this? Can you bend this? And I said, well, that's the kind of things you're looking at starting with. When you get squared away on that, we're going to keep increasing your knowledge base and your training to get you there. And any kid that might be watching this right now, we'll share this out to the students and stuff and tell them to go watch it. I'll be saying the same thing, is that there is nothing from elementary, middle, high school, whatever, any kind of shop class that you can get that's going to give you some basic something. I mean, me and my uncle, we had the same shop teachers in school, and he works here. And we're all the time making references back to Mr. Richardson saying, hey, this is the way you did this. And we still do things that way because that's the way he said to do it. And there's no invaluable stuff that they can absorb. And that's one of the main things we touched on that day. I went to the school and spoke to those students for the first time. Was grab all you can grab, because if you never work in this industry, but your wife piles the Tahoe into the side of the garage, then that makes you a whole lot harder to get taken by an unsavvy body guy that tells you something's 20,000, it should have been 8.
Right.
You take that knowledge and move forward and get something out of it, whether you ever turn a screw in this industry or not. And, look around the room. I told those guys, I said, 3 or 4 of you guys going to be competition or be, acquaintances working in this industry. 3 or 4 of you is never going to touch it. And 3 or 4 of you is probably never going to work anywhere. It's just, that's the room that you're in. Look around and figure out, okay, some of us are going to be together forever in the area. Yeah. Some of us are not, and that's okay. But it's and it's early in life. You don't have a mortgage, you don't have family, you don't have all the things. They're not paying for a building. That's a whole lot easier time to learn it than when you got all the stress of running the business and everything else on you. So,
well, speaking of that, I took shop class. I took every class I could in high school. The last 2 years, I took a tech school. Went to tech school for half the day for auto services. Then after I graduated, I took night school for auto body. Painted a few cars, but didn't get into it. But that knowledge I had especially from auto services, I can tell you saved me a ton of money over the years, me being able to fix my own stuff or not be taken by a dealership. If I had to take it to them, I knew what the heck I was talking about, right? I knew what they were saying or what they were not, how they were trying to screw me, right? Saved a ton of money because I've always worked on my own stuff, right? So it was a huge knowledge, even though I didn't go into the industry, which was my plan. When I was in high school, I was going to go to Alfred Tech to go to college, and I was going to be in auto services and do that. It just didn't happen. Get married, life happens, have a mortgage. Like you said, you got bills to pay, things happen, but it also led to what we're doing today. So
I think it's really great that you hit on something that, again, Barry and I are really, we really focus a lot on with regards to youth engagement. Is you are 100% correct that although the automotive industry is wide and it's vast and there are so many different facets of it that you can get involved in, the truth of it is, though, just as Jude said, is that we're aging out, right? Is that there's this huge demographic that is already established and substantial in this space, but we need to make room for a younger generation to come in. And that also includes some of the older generation being open to how the younger generation works and how they view things and, how they kind of incorporate their knowledge and skill and bringing that knowledge to the industry so it continues to grow and it continues to thrive. So I appreciate that, you're taking the position of, yes, you can do this, but pardon my French, don't fuck around, because there is, it is your business first and foremost. But secondly, you can get hurt. People can get hurt. If somebody doesn't do something right on a vehicle, that could be very catastrophic for somebody. Even if your guys are double checking stuff and, for somebody new working on it, they need to understand that principle.
100%. And, we talk about that too, as well as, learning to respect the different genres these kids are coming up in. Everybody don't like a hot rod. Everybody don't want a street rod. Everybody don't want a truck the way we do them. And we've had to work through that with our shop, especially. Of course, like I said, we're 85-90% trucks. We in the shop right now. There's a '66 vet out here getting some work. We've done some Chevelles. We've done some Camaros too. But mostly after being on United by Truck with Robbie, we started getting the truck stuff in. We were starting to build a social media base there. Then he connected with me in 18 and did a coverage of a truck we built called Goldine. It was a truck for myself that ended up selling to a friend. And that's when the truck business started rolling in, and it turned, which was basically where I wanted to be all along. I told my dad for years, I said, I wish trucks were more accepted, because at the time you didn't see trucks at Knoxville or the Shades or anywhere like that. It was everything else. I'm like, I want a hot rod truck, but it ain't the cool thing to have. So when this truck stuff kicked off, it was a natural fit for us. But
it's
with that being said, it's doing the stuff at the NSRA for years was 48 and older. So then they started opening it up to 1949 and newer. And there's been certain struggles with that and stuff. And then we take a 77 C10 to the party and give it away in Louisville 2 years ago. And more positives than negatives, but right up to the end, you've got a truck there that's obviously street rod based. It's obviously whoever built this truck knows street rods and has some basis in that industry. There's still a few bellyachers crying and complaining, it ain't a hot rod, it ain't a street rod. And it's like, it's 500 horsepower, it's a 5-speed, and it's got big tires in the back. If you don't like that, you're in the wrong place. And I said it on the stage. I mean, you have to get up and give a talk. There are probably 15, 20,000 people in that arena when they give that car away, because people go to that and they don't go to anything else because they're giving a car away. And I just made the statement. I said, if you can't look at this thing and tell that it's built by hot rod people with a background in hot rods, I don't know what to tell you. And if you're here in a 500 horsepower truck and you don't like that, you're in the wrong place. I mean, and we got to tolerate each other. I mean, it's just a lot of these import cars. A lot of people are, I don't like it import stuff. You better, because that's where your base is coming from. And we're looking around the field, and all of us were mini truckers as kids. So now we're doing hot rods.
The Gearheads and Gasoline podcast is proudly sponsored by Redline Synthetic Oil. With a legacy of excellence and over 100 premium products, Redline provides motor oils, gear oils, assembly lubes, fuel additives, and water wetter for the automotive, racing, motorcycle, marine, and industrial markets. Known for their exceptional quality and technical expertise, Redline is trusted by enthusiasts and professionals alike. Discover their full range of products and expert support at redlineoil.com. It's interesting you say imports, because we've had some at the SEMA show in the Armo booth, and I used to be like, oh, they're rice burners. I hated them. I totally have a different respect for them now in the last 5 years, understanding what those guys are doing with those cars and the cool stuff they're doing and the drifting and the horsepower that are coming out of a 4-cylinder engine. Totally changed my mind. And I totally agree with you on that. You accept it. You don't have to like a specific one. You like what you like, but you don't have to downgrade it or say bad things about it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like that's 100% correct, Barry. And like, I come from the performance side of stuff. And so we see, like I work on purpose-built race cars, but as that, kind of goes, there's like, you have to respect what those guys are doing in that platform, because they're still sharing the industry. They're still loving the industry. They're still loving racing. They're still loving automotive. They're just putting their own spin on it. Right. And like I'd said, when it comes to like the youth part of it, is that we have to be able to love everything that everybody is bringing to it, because it drives our industry forward no matter what. Right. Like there's a niche for everybody. And so I personally am like Barry, like I'm not really a huge fan of imports, but I absolutely 100% respect what those guys are doing within their platforms. Like it's absolutely impressive. And at the end of the day, they're still spending money and they are still here to help support our industry. So I'm for it.
Well, absolutely. They're innovating and they're bringing the youth in too. And as some of the youth gets into that, they're going to look at other types of restorations and builds as well and learn more about that industry. So I think it's important to not discount anything. You know, we're at the SEMA show and there's trucks that I can't even reach the door handle, and I look at them and go, I don't understand, but it's some cool craftsmanship and some still cool stuff going on. Would I ever do it? Probably not. You know, and that look 9-inch. I put a 3.5-inch list on my Rebel, and the net goes, that's nothing.
Middle.
I get
Yeah,
it. That's my
definitely
truck
the
I'm driving.
lifted
It's the
truck
first
one.
one I've had, and I don't know when, that didn't have some lift on it too. So I don't want to put a kid in a car seat a whole lot higher off the ground than it is the biggest reason it's not. But nobody can believe
Fair.
it's still got stock wheels. We call it the papawed out diesel, but
That's awesome. Yeah,
it's
no, I'm
fine. I
definitely.
don't care.
I don't have any small kids anymore, so for me, I'm like lifted as high as it can go, and it's still my daily, so I love it. But yeah, like just exactly the same thing, right? Like I'm really into the big lifted trucks, and there's a lot of people who aren't. Like they just, again, just like Barry said, it's not my thing. I don't understand it, and that's okay. Again, there's space for all of us.
I like mildly lifted trucks for sure because I have one, but I don't the and I'm a 4-wheel drive guy. If you're going to lift it, it needs to have 4-wheel drive tires. When I see some of the lifted trucks, they have street tires on, and it's just
Right.
it doesn't compute with me. I still want a video of Annette getting in her truck when she lifts it up because she's like 3 foot shorter than me. And I have to work to get into my truck, and it's not lifted that much. So
Well,
it should.
you just got to have the magic, Barry. You
There's
just
got
got
to
to have.
be magic. You have to show me. So, anyways, um, Bryan, are you? We've talked about hot rods and build stuff. When you look at your shop, I'm gathering you like the custom builds versus a full restoration. What's your thoughts on that? You know.
Yeah, I mean, right now that seems to be what we're getting asked about. We kind of, I guess, where we're getting some popularity and some coverage on social media. People realize the things you do, so we don't get asked about the restoration type things. We get asked about hot rods, and they tell us that, you know, people says we have a look, and I tend to do a lot of the same things on the trucks a certain way. So we're kind of getting asked within that little niche of the market, you know, to do things. I'm not against a restoration. We've talked to some people that's got some things coming up that may want to do that. You know, like I said, back to the Camaro thing when I was younger, Dad always had first gen Camaros. They were more or less restorations. We weren't getting that ridiculous into the chassis or anything of that nature. It was basically a restoration. And you know, we've had some Mopar stuff that we did some work on that was ours. I'm not opposed to it, but I'll tell you this: I get people in here asking about work, and if what they're wanting to do don't hit a nerve with me, and I don't think that I'm going to want to stand here at the door and watch it go out the street when it leaves, I'll just tell them I'm not your guy. You know,
Yeah.
You
this
gotta
shop
enjoy
is
what you're
okay
doing,
if
right?
that. I've told people before, X shop here is right in your wheelhouse. I think they'd be a
Right.
good fit for you, but I just don't know about here. And if I can't stay bought into it,
Yeah, I think that's how all businesses should be, right? Like there's so many different companies out there that have things that they specialize in that I may not necessarily be the person for you, but there's somebody out there for you. And if I can lead you in the right direction and you can have that partnership or, you know, just common respect for that other shop, then hey, that goes a long way, not only in that customer's eyes, but also in your community, right? So, I mean, I think if you can do that, it's just goodwill for your business and it's just goodwill for yourself.
It's interesting. I was thinking the other day, you know, because being on Armo, we're restoration, right? But we've also, you know, the cars we bring in the booth, we're looking more at, okay, if it has a chassis on it or LS engine in it, that goes on the HRA side. But if it has, you know, Willwood brakes or vintage air or, you know, some of the modern upgrades to make them safer and drive better, that's cool, right? And even the builds like you're doing, they're still on the restoration side. You still have to bring them back sometimes. You find them in a field,
exactly.
right? You still have to get those parts from AMD. You still have to find a lot of the factory bits and pieces to make it run. And then you also have to build stuff too for things that aren't even available anymore, right? And then on the custom side, you know, you're being innovative right there, and a lot of companies out there that are supporting that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. It kind of gave me a thought with what you said is that, you know, within the look of what we want our trucks to look like, a lot of the body stuff, I prefer them a little more stock looking. You're not going to beat GM design on a lot of things. You're not going to beat GM's colors. Even if it's not off a certain truck, I'll use a GM color from another era, another year. we tighten up bumpers and we close up gaps, and we do things of that nature. Or I may do a play on some kind of GM trim that's GM trim-ish, but it's the way we modified it or whatever. I don't have anything against, here again, anybody wants to take one and totally change it, that's great. I'll still look at it and find things I like in anything. But for us, I like a stock proportion. I like, utilizing some GM stuff to kind of customize it, make it our own. But I like to do the engineering is figuring out how to get the truck to live that low all the time without requiring air ride or requiring any of the hydraulics or anything of that nature. I like to do the leg work, and it's still a performance vehicle. It's still got the big banging motor to live right on the street. Now, my interior, I like to get a little out there on some of that stuff from time to time. But here again, it's kind of the way those trucks look. You'll have a really nice custom seat and take the patterns and the textures to the doors and a few things throughout. But then, you're just not going to beat a lot of the styling of a GM, for my opinion, and for where I'm trying to get. And it's not everybody's way. It's a way, but it's not the only way. But for me, you're doing restoration techniques and restoration purchases for parts in combination with a very trick and a very hot rod underneath. And I like to bridge that gap somewhere in the middle.
And there's a lot of things that, back in the day when those trucks were built 60s, 70s, early 80s, they're building a factory where they had to run through so many cars a day. So the gaps were bigger, the bumpers they were farther away for a reason, right? Because if they had to really tightly fit them, it'd slow down production. So they did certain things because of efficiency in production, right? So you're just fixing a lot of that things that people want. It takes you longer to do that, right? But they look really badass and they still retain that original styling, right?
Exactly. And that's the thing too, when we've got access to better stuff now in this industry than we've ever had. Yeah, and right. I mean, it don't take a scientist knows anything about us to know that we work with AMD. And the reason I work with AMD is not, simply the fact that I realize their stuff is really good and it works good. And by talking to Jason and doing more and more with them, that's how it came to pass. It didn't come to pass that they said, hey, you want to work with us on things, just go say our stuff is good. It wasn't that at all. It's that I go places because it's what I continue to use and it's good stuff. And then whatever follows it. So, we were finding out that when you did AMD product, it fit good and it did what it was supposed to do. And there's things with that I would rather have than GM, some of their stuff.
Right.
So we have access in the industry right now to far superior stuff than what they had even 15, 20 years ago. There's so many products filling so many voids out there that, a guy with a moderate amount of knowledge and a good set of tools can make something pretty nice these days without having to take it as deep as what some of us do. And it's just a good time to be in the market.
Yeah, I've heard horror stories of panels not fitting, not AMD stuff, just to put a note in there, but other manufacturers.
Jason appreciates you for that.
Hey, Jason's my buddy. So, we don't want to hear about that. We want people are building cars to get good materials. And if you have to cut body panels to make them fit or do a lot of different things to them, why are they people even buying them, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we tried to do when we built that truck that's on the AMD catalog, the giveaway truck. I put a feeler out on social media. I need a buildable GM cab with a good bend that I can title. Had to put it in the contract, the NSRA, and then everything else on that truck, doors, front clip, every piece of metal on that truck was all AMD stuff. And we purposefully, and Jason and I discussed it, I said, let's don't do a bunch of crazy panel gapping and a bunch of going over the top here. Let's show it as a guy with a catalog can order this stuff and put together an above average truck. And that's not going to be gapped like a Riddler winner. And that wasn't what we were going for. It's a giveaway truck. You're writing off $80,000 in labor right off the bat anyway. So we built a pretty doggone good truck. And I had a lot of people talk to me about it up there and like, how much work on this did you do? How much work on? We lined it up and tweaked and, what you have to do with anything if it was GM stuff. But as far as gapping that thing going crazy, we just didn't. And I had some people, I looked at that thing, it gapped off a little bit. Well, pull one out of a catalog house and put it together and see how it does. And then you tell me that AMD stuff ain't good stuff.
Nice.
That's probably still back gapped way better than the factory, right? And
I'll promise you that it is.
Yeah. Did you go to NSRA for that? NCRS, I'm sorry. Did you go to them to offer them up this truck, or did they come and ask you to do it? How did that all come
So
about where you did the giveaway
I've
truck, I
got
guess?
I've got a friend out of South Carolina, Will Seibel. He's a rep with NSRA, and at Knoxville, backing up to that, when you win an award at Knoxville, you used to pull up on a stage in an amphitheater. All the cars were on stage. Well, I had a personal vehicle that was up there one year. Then the next year, my dad's truck was up there and had our logo in the corner of the windshield. Then the next year, I had a Chevelle that we did, and that Goldine truck I had with the guy I sold it to got on the stage. So after it was over, he comes to me and he says, "Who are you? I haven't seen this logo around up here. You know what?" So we started talking. And that just sparked a friendship and looking into how things were and discussing, hey, we got to do something to get the younger guys involved and try to fill some of these gaps where the numbers are falling down and this, that, and the other. And conversation after conversation and year after year after year. And we're at Louisville one year, and me and my wife were in the hotel room. And I said, "Simplest thing I can do is build a truck." She said, "What?" I said, "Well, they need to build a truck. It touches a different market." So the next day we saw each other in the concourse at Louisville. It's like a big marble open area where all the builder showcase stuff is. I said, "Hey, Willie," I said, "we need to have a talk." I said, what about, why don't y'all build a truck for the giveaway truck? And I said, "Here's my thoughts on it. Here's what it'll tap into." And I said, "You realize I got 25, 30 companies right now that help us on stuff. I'll bring them to the table the minute we do this truck. We're not going to have to fish for everything." That being said, month later, we're looking at how to do the contract and how to do this. And we were actually not supposed to give that truck away until this year and got moved up a year. So the guy that was over that, Bob, calls me kind of, I won't say in a panic, but he had an urgency in his voice and says, "Well, the guy for 23 just backed out. What's that going to do to you? Can you step up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can. It shouldn't be no problem. We've already been working on stuff on this truck for over a year. We should be able to step it up." So we really should have had an extra year, but we didn't. We moved up and filled the void. So
Wow.
It was an idea planted, but it was kind of a mutual thing. And they're not getting the line of people wanting, "Hey, let's go build a free car for somebody." They're just not getting that anymore. And it's okay. Some of the companies are still happy to give parts on the stuff, and some of the people are like, "Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. We have to seek out a different company." But a lot of people, Bowler Transmissions, for example, I called up there and asked to talk to Mark. Jason Kretsch was at Gander Chevrolet then. That's where the 502 came from. And I said, I need to trim it. This thing needs a 5-speed. So I called Bowler, and Bowler says, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'd do it, to help you out. We want you selling more transmissions. We want you speaking for our stuff and using our stuff. We're doing it to help you. It's great that it's the NSRA truck." But that I liked his approach with that. And I'm telling you, when they send you a transmission, we got a pallet with every bolt, every piece we needed was right there on it. And that wasn't cheap. And it built something moving forward that, guess what? I'm talking about building another one of those trucks for myself. Where do you think I'm going to go for my transmission? Because now, as a result of doing this, I've got a better relationship with that guy. And that's the kind of people I want to work with. If I get a bad vibe from somebody, that number's gone. We call somebody else.
Yeah, they're good people over at Bowler.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Motorhead Digital. Motorhead Digital are digital marketing experts for your automotive aftermarket, restoration, performance, race, and restyling shop. They help you supercharge your shop's website, social media, and entire online presence to attract those badass customers you're looking for. Check us out at motorheaddigital.com.
I want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about your marketing. And I love, obviously what you guys do, but every shop kind of has these challenges. And so we're looking at what are the things that you're doing to reach your target audience? And what do you find to be the most effective way to do that?
I think a lot of it, when I start feeling a little bit of momentum one way or the other with something we've got going on, then I kind of latch onto that and keep going with that. Well, that being said, if I put something out there like a little feeler, we're doing this kind of work, and that's the things I'm getting the questions about, okay, they want to see more content about this. Or this truck looks a certain way, and I'm getting a lot of hits about this. Okay, well, let's ramp it up on that truck. And I've got a truck out here that's about finished now that we're going to start the campaign up on it here pretty soon with all the things going on with it. It's been here for a while, and it's kind of fell off the radar on purpose, and we're going to bring it back up. But in my business, of course, I started years ago. I bought one paid for ad in the history of Harrison's Rod and Custom. It was a $90 local paper ad that said, "Come to my shop, mention this ad, get 10% off," and it wasn't mentioned a single time. And that was through the holiday season. That's when we also sold a lot of truck accessories back then. And, we did all that. So didn't hear a thing from it. I've never paid for another ad ever. It's been, something part of the package with the NSRA, or it's been, that AMD puts us in ads with them, us representing AMD stuff. During that NSRA truck, there was a picture of us with that truck in mock-up that was in the magazine. But as far as the social media stuff, I just kind of feel how the course is playing that day and whatever's going on at the time. And I do lean on the truck stuff pretty hard because it's truck stuff. And then we have some projects that come through here. They're in and out of here so quick. They just don't get the love they should as far as the social media. And if it's something smaller, I am super huge on, I'm not going to change the spindles on this truck and push it out here like we done everything on it. Or I'm not going to change one little aspect of this truck and push it out here like we did everything. If you see that from me, it's going to be, hey, truck was already built, came to us for a little bit of stance work. We did this. I'll show a before and after of what we actually did. And that's it. Because I'm super against trying to claim something as you did the whole thing and you didn't. And I don't go there. But now if I take, like in this industry, get a lot of original paint stuff, and these guys are wanting to retain original paint. Now we had a 39,000 actual mile truck in here that we took a truck. Now you're going to say you built the whole truck? Well, of course not. But are we responsible for the entire look of that truck and all the little idiosyncrasy things we changed all over that truck? Absolutely. Now, yeah, we consider that a build. We pushed that out there to death. But I think people see through the integrity of things pretty quickly with what you're posting. I think they learn to see kind of what your vibe is, and it changes kind of. I don't know. I'm not so sure that there's not room in this industry, especially in the truck industry now. There's kind of a down south, East Coast looking truck and kind of a West Coast looking truck, and something sort of, it's evolving to the point that it's right there like where the street rods are. So I think I get a lot more followers in certain areas than I do, or people that I've come in contact with.
What platform do you feel you get the best interaction on? I'm curious.
It's tough to say. It kind of depends on what you're doing. I like Instagram a lot. Kind of fell on it by accident. The only reason I have no lie to tell you, the only reason I ever started an Instagram is because a lifted truck of my own company that I use their suspension said, we're doing a thing, put it on Instagram, post it, and tag us, and put the truck on the thing. We did it just to see. I was sitting at the fire station one day, and that was the first post that I ever did. Was a Titan that I had, a crew cab long bed with a lift. From then on, once we got hooked up with UBT and Robbie, and started doing the United by Trucks videos and stuff, and that's when it started taking some traction. That him putting us on there did probably as much for us as anything to get us going, and he keeps continuing to pull us about a video or two a year. We're in something over there, plans to do some more stuff soon. But for me, I think I like Instagram a little better.
Okay.
I was looking through the information that you shared, and maybe I missed it, but it doesn't look like you guys have a website.
Nope, don't have a website.
No. Okay.
My wife has done the groundwork to try to get something in place. I don't mean this the way it sounds, and if I sound like I'm being a jerk about it, I'll say it a different way. But I've got so much work to do right now. I don't know what I'd do if we had more.
100%.
And I don't want to have a website that I'm not paying the proper attention to. Now for merch and people calling, hey, I want to get a Harrison's hat or shirt or whatever, that kind of thing, absolutely. But, she's got my Google up to date. She's got my Instagram and all that stuff is kept up to date. And it's just working. And I kind of don't mess with things that don't need messed with sometimes. If it's working, I don't jack
if it ain't
with
broke,
it.
don't fix it.
It's interesting you say that because I'm an advocate. Obviously, we're a website digital marketing shop. We build websites. I've stood on the stage of SEMA and said, the biggest concern I have about all that is you don't own any of that, right? If you have a website, you own it as long as you pay for your hosting and stuff. I've seen companies suddenly Strange Motion has a problem right now with their Facebook. Somebody hacked it, and Tim's struggling with getting access back. I don't know if they got access back yet, or the algorithms don't like something you post so they ban your account or something like that. That's my biggest concern, but I totally get where you're coming from too, as far as, hey, it's working. Why should I spend more money into something like a website when we're busier and our social media is working? So there's two ways to look at it, right?
And with me being a lieutenant at the fire department, so my business, I work 2 days a week at the fire department, and it rotates.
Right.
Like if I'm Monday, Thursday this week, I'm Tuesday, Friday the next, and the next week I only work Wednesday. I'm 4 days in the shop. So I can't post business hours unless I put months out ahead. I don't have people here when I'm not here. And the biggest reason is, with hiring more help and people that's not okay with that schedule. Like I've had a couple of people that's talked to me about working here, the schedule freaked them out. So, but when I get retired from the fire department, the plan is to go to 5 days. At that point, it'll change my outlook on some of this stuff.
Right.
But for right now, we're keeping caught up with what we need to do. I was injured last year. I was down for about 70 days that we didn't work in the shop at all. So I got hurt on the job at the fire department. We're getting caught back up to those things. And I've got good customers that say, hey, man, I'm not worried about the project. How are you and the family doing? Are you doing okay? And that leads more back to that, trying to do a good job and take care of people. And they feel more like working with you. That's the kind of customers I want. If I get a bad vibe, you're out of here. I don't
Right.
with that. Right. But if I had any more work to do right now, I don't know what we'd do.
How far out are you booked?
Full build, 2 years, and
okay, so you're about average.
Yeah.
Truck shop, stuff. As far as you do trucks, you're always going to need to hold lower a truck and do tires and wheels, maybe a quick brake job, something like that. Some of that stuff, I told a guy the other day, I'm about 7 months out on something right now. We had gotten in the groove of doing a lot of engine swaps, and a lot of people hear these cams and the way we've got them sounding, and I'm getting some people says, hey, I watched the video, I want the engine, sounds like a combination you're running, but I'm not sure that we're not going to back off of some of that engine swap stuff and get more to just doing the full build stuff and maybe like one spot in the shop for the quick in and out things. I'm not ever going to just stop doing engine and drivetrain swaps. That's not going to happen, but it's going to get down to more there's one going or one pending versus I got 2 in here and I got 2 coming right behind them right now. So
do you do your own paint?
No, we do not. We've got somebody doing it off site, and for a couple reasons, it changes the inspection and the codes of my shop in the town. I'm kind of picky about the cleanliness and the neatness of my shop. I don't want a lot of that stuff there. But with that being said, metalwork, trick type things that I want a certain way, then yes, I do that. I get it ready to hand off to the body guy. There are certain things that I want done a certain way that I'll do them and hand them over, and then the rest of it's just to that point. And then I want to pick it up and bring it back here. The other thing I like about it is we are a small community. We've had some projects in here that the word got out it was here, and you get a lot of people by here that just wants to see what's going on. And sometimes being off site and out of mind gives you a little more privacy about what you're doing. You bring it back here and go right back together with it. At some point, I will probably put a paint shop on the property and get somebody in here doing it here just for the logistics of transporting and having to be so careful about damaging something. But, we just recently made a change to a new guy that's going to be doing it moving forward. I won't say his name yet because we ain't really pushed that out there yet. But we just went through a change with that, and moving forward, he'll be taking care of it. And I think it's going to be a good fit for everybody. He's a guy that's looking to get more into just doing kind of stuff like what we do as far as a lot of volume. And I think it's going to be a good fit for everybody. But yeah, at some point I'd like to have it on site. But for right now, here again, it's working.
Yeah, you're not the only one. There's a number of shops we've talked to that have a paint shop they work with because of all sorts of reasons, right? The expense of having that booth, the insurance, all the environmental stuff. They would rather work with somebody they trust that's got that all set up already, right?
Yeah. My husband's best friend, him and his dad own a shop, and again, I live here in California, so the EPA runs rampant in our area, and they have had to jump through some crazy hoops to even just have their paint booth that's for just their personal shop. Like, they don't actually do stuff that is for outward public, right? Like, they don't have a shop where they build stuff, but they do fire investigation, and part of some of the builds that they do independently is, like having that paint shop, but they've got like all these things that they had to do to meet in order to have that shop. It's just insane. So I can totally understand how you're like, we're going to hold off on that right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's just, I've been in shops that tried to do both, and you can section that off and have that area, and it works pretty good. But our shop's 50 by 100. It's basically one big room. Mm-hmm. Hard fabrication. Major stuff takes part in one part of the building. Then as it comes toward the front of the building, it's more finished, where I've actually got carpet down for the final assembly up here and stuff where we do that. Nice. But for right now, it's just not what we need to do. But we're super excited about making the change and getting somebody else in there that's going to be doing it moving forward. And here again, as long as that works, I don't see us ever changing. I get somebody that works and's taking care of me and doing me a good job. I'm gonna treat them tenfold better, and it's going to go well and work for both of us.
Well, speaking of that, you mentioned AMD. There's a lot of different suppliers out there, right? AMD, Bowler. We have a number of customers that are in the C10 space, ironically, that are building race trucks or like Level 7. And then over in South Carolina, Trucks USA does a lot of bedwood for trucks like that. And then there's Cooper Restorations. Are there any you really favor as far as where you get your bits and pieces that you use for those builds? Or do you just go find, when you're building the truck, it might differ?
I would say
go-tos, I guess, is what I'm saying.
PowerMaster. We've used PowerMaster products for years, and the biggest reason is, I've never returned anything. And, let's face it, PowerMaster, you're going to pay up for it if you want it versus what you can go grab something at a parts store for. That's just the way it is. But I have people say, oh, man, that's a little pricey. Why is it so high? And I say, well, it's good stuff. And what's a warranty? I say, well, I don't know. I haven't ever needed it. And I actually said that on a podcast, and it got back to the owner of PowerMaster. A friend of mine, Bob Hancock, works with them, and he had sought us out at Louisville and wanted to get us on a program with them. So we use PowerMaster for everything. If it doesn't get a PowerMaster, it don't get done here. It's not going to fail, and I'm not going to have a mad customer call me and say their charging system or their starter's not working. And then Sanderson headers, we've been using their stuff for years, made in the USA. Here again, it don't fail. It don't turn. If I need a little custom something or I need a little tweak on something because it doesn't fit because of me and I've done something, she'll do that and fix it how I need it and send it to me. The fitment for what she tells you, if it tells you it fits and it's going to do its thing, it does its thing. You can look at our socials and tell we're American Racing Wheels crazy. We run Americans. There's actually a picture behind me of my dad in 1970 with his Roadrunner on Americans. We've always worked with them well. I've got a powder coater here local, Black Label Coatings. He's got to be a friend of ours. He's like family. He does our work here, not looking to change because he's covering the bases for us. But we do have companies, and I feel bad like I'm going to leave somebody out here because I hope they know I appreciate them because I tell them I do every time I talk to them. But we've got companies that have sought us out and said, hey, we're seeing what you're doing. We want you using our stuff. We try to use our stuff, and hey, I'll try. If it works, that's what we'll do. And that's precision replacement parts. Derek helps us with things. We call him when we've got a little something going on. No problem with that.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Annette Bauer Creative. At Annette Bauer Creative, we understand the power of visual storytelling in transforming brands and driving growth. From capturing the essence of your products and services to showcasing the unique solutions you offer, our professional imagery and reels help bring your brand to life. Fuel your brand and ignite your vision at AnnetteBauerCreative.com.
Okay. Well, Annette lost power. So she said, finish without me. So I had a couple of questions. We talked about the shops and everything, the other suppliers and stuff, but how big is your team? Is it just you? A couple? I know you mentioned another gentleman and the new guy coming in.
So my wife helps with the books. She does office work and stuff here. There's me. My dad has been with me since day one, helping me with things, and he's always going to be as long as he wants to be, of course. I've got an uncle that works here some, and then I've got another gentleman that's a retired guy that comes in a couple of days kind of just as needed. And that's about it. I've got a friend we call each other brothers. We're just close family friends, but He's like a little brother to me. And during the NSRA truck, I called on him and then some friends of friends when that was going on down in Crutch, try to get to the end. But that's kind of it. We're small. If we didn't grow the business any longer, I like where it's at right now as far as the days. But when we go to 5 days, when I do this, after the fire department, we're planning to put 2 to 3 people on at that point. But I'm not a control freak, and I'm okay to turn loose of pieces of things like that. It's not that at all. But there's certain parts of this that I do it because I enjoy. And if I was just sitting in the office, and had 3 really good guys, and I was the piano player of 3 really good instruments in here and letting them do their thing, I'd be in their hair out there trying to do things too, because I like it. And that, here again, getting back to the injury and all that stuff last year, we had some pretty tough times getting over it and stuff. And, I feel more like myself. We were making a statement this week. We had a big week, accomplished a lot of things. I had goals every week I want to get done. I said, I feel more like myself when I'm in here working myself to death than I do any other day. And my wife can tell when I get home. She can tell, hey, it was going like you wanted it to go, and it just I don't see me ever stepping out of the shop and just managing. I will always have certain things that I want to do, and if I did, I'd probably have my own thing in a bay, working on my own thing as well, right beside them.
Anyways, I think I'm going to wrap this up. We do have some questions here. Annette usually runs these, so let's see if I can do it. So we got a speed round here with some questions, and wanted to ask you, what's your favorite driver, team, hot rod, or muscle car? And just off the top of your head, don't think too much about it. Or truck.
Muscle cars, ZL1 Camaro every day, 69. Awesome. That would be my muscle car pick.
What is your favorite tool in your toolbox?
That's a tough one. Ingersoll Rand air chisel.
Ingersoll Rand air. That's a first for us. Wow.
I cut a lot of rivets. We do a lot of suspension, cut a lot of rivets. So
yeah, cool. Do you have a favorite racetrack, automotive event, or car show that you just got to go to every year?
Yeah, I would say Louisville's probably that right now. We enjoy that just because of the people and the history we've got with doing that up there.
Gotcha. Well, great. One last question. What's the best advice you've ever received, and from who?
I don't know. We've compiled a lot of that over the years. I wouldn't say it's an advice as much as something I've kind of tried to live by, and I don't really know where it came from. But, you can have a business and your friends will bring you business, but your business should bring you friends. And I've tried to kind of keep that going. So I think that was a combination of some things of how I got there, but that pretty much sums it up.
It's interesting you say that, because ever since we've been doing Motorhead Digital and working with restoration performance shops, I've gained a lot of new friends that I've done business with. So
yeah, and it's like you said, you won't do business with people you invite over for barbecue, but I've literally got friends, that are, several hours from here that I talk to a few times a week, and they call and they don't want to talk about the truck. They don't want to talk about what's going on here with them currently or what they've done in the past. Like, hey, how y'all doing? And we coordinate our truck show trips around people now and stuff. And we've got to be good friends with a lot of people we've done work for. And that's who I want to work with. So it's, I think if you base your business around that and try to do things the right way, you're going to have a successful deal.
Absolutely. That's great advice. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Bryan, for joining us today. Bryan, please remind listeners where they can find you, connect, purchase, support you, or, just learn more about
you. Go
you.
over to @Harrison's Rod Shop on Instagram, Harrison's Rod and Custom on Facebook. And like I said, we don't have a web. That's where you find us.
Yep, on social media. Well, thanks, everyone, for joining us today and the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast, fueling your success.
Thanks.
We know you don't want to miss an episode, so don't forget to smash that bell so that you get notified of every new episode. Click that like button, leave us a comment, and share with your people. And visit us repeatedly. We love it.